Blog Talk Radio.
Archangels, ghosts, and Bigfoot. Oh my. It's just another night for Supernatural Girls. Real stories, real answers to life's biggest supernatural mysteries. And now for another exciting interview with paranormal experts from this world and others. Psychic medium Helene Olson and paranormal researcher Patricia Baker. Here are Supernatural Girls.
And thank you for tuning in to another exciting episode of Supernatural Girls. Please call in your questions if you're listening live at 646-478-0828. That's 646-478-0828. I am Helene Olson, co-host of this show, and you can find me at angelslighthouse.com. And we're on tonight with my fabulous co-partner in crime, Patricia Baker. Hello, Patricia.
Hi, Helene. Welcome back. Welcome back. Gosh, you're a woman on the move. You've been everywhere. You were in Salem all day today, and last week you were in another part of the state. I mean, you've just been all over the place.
I have, and it's October, Patricia, you know. And
it is spooky October, so it's a good time to be busy.
It is, but people, you know, they think about readings and parties and all kinds of events for the Halloween and fall season. So it's been a lot of fun, and I love being busy, but it was tough to miss last week's show. I wish I was on it with you, but that's the way it goes.
I know. It was just your kind of subject, but we'll be having Timothy Wiley back. I know we've had a lot of requests to bring him back again, and I know we will. So you'll get your opportunity.
And people can also download the archive for free right from the Supernatural Girls with a Z website. And so if they want to listen to that show, it was great. I listened to the whole thing. I was riveted. It was really interesting. So
it was a great show. He was a great guest, and oh my goodness, we have great guests. You know, that's the bottom line. We always have great guests with terrific information.
Mm-hmm. I hope everybody goes over to supernaturalgirls.com and signs up for our weekly newsletter that Patricia produces. It's just amazing, and it lists our upcoming guests and lots of other paranormal information. So go on over and put your name right on our newsletter, where we will be picking winners for free books and readings and so forth, and it's a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun. We have all kinds of books we're going to be giving away in just the next few weeks. And if you're signed up on that newsletter, then you get a chance to win one.
That's right. It doesn't cost anything. It's free.
That's right.
Yeah. So tonight we have another great guest, Robert Salas, who is an author. He wrote Unidentified, the UFO Phenomenon, and also he was co-author of Faded Giant. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Robert, or do you want to start with paranormal news?
No, I'll talk to you now and everybody about Robert. He is a terrific guest. He is known as a very credible witness to this entire UFO debacle and all of the cover-up that goes on around it. And he was a highly regarded witness to the 1967 UFO encounters at Malmstrom, I hope I'm pronouncing that correct, Air Force Base. And Robert also graduated from the U.S. Air Force Academy, so he was an Air Force officer, and he spent 7 years on active duty from 1964 to 1971. And then he also held positions at Martin, Marietta, Rockwell International, and spent 21 years as the FAA as an airport structures certification engineer. So
he's
had
kind of background, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's just had a tremendous amount of experience. He knows what he's talking about. When he talks, we listen, because he is the man. He's been through it himself with having this experience and having these missiles shut down while he was right there. And he's also had his own abduction experience, which he's just starting to talk about. Yes, And, of course, you know how we treat, not we, you and me, but how how people do treat abductees. And so this has taken him a while to come out with this information, but he's going to be talking to our audience tonight about it. So I feel very honored that he's coming on our show to kind of do some breaking news on what he actually experienced. So it's going to be great to bring him on in just a minute, but I did want to also share some paranormal news, if that's all right. It's kind of cool.
All right.
It's kind of it makes you scratch your head when you hear this one, because in the UK, they are actually staging UFO crashes for school children.
What?
Now, is this weird? It's true. I swear, it's true. So there seems to be this
look at
trend.
Patricia. It goes back to my theory of by the time there really is disclosure, everybody's just going to be yawning, right?
Well, I think that's what they're setting this up for, because why else would they be doing this? Now, I can tell you they didn't do this at my school years ago. It would have been really cool if they did. I would have loved it. But
I would have hit under the gas.
We were doing duck and cover. Yeah, we were doing duck and cover. That was not that much fun. But
no.
Anyways, what they're doing in the UK is they're teaching students how to react to a UFO crash. And they're also teaching them how to properly investigate and report on the incident. Now,
all over the country or just in certain progressive schools?
At least several different schools this is taking place. So the latest UFO drill took place on September 29th at Sanford Primary School in the UK. And the children were treated to a full UFO crash scenario that included wreckage, police tape, and real police officers.
No.
So, yes, it's true.
Wow.
What's interesting,
I don't know if I like that.
I think it's a riot. Are you kidding? I think this is
I
pointing.
think it could be scaring the kids. I don't know.
No, they're having a blast. They had pictures. The kids were all having a great time. They were smiling. They were holding up the police tape, It's an adventure for them. Hey, it gets them out of class. You kidding me?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
It's fun for them. So the police were on hand to show the children how to properly investigate the UFO crash site and all of that. And then the teachers and the organizers were just saying how, the kids did a great job and they secured the scene and talked about what to do in an emergency. They had them gathering evidence and interviewing witnesses. So I guess this is becoming a routine part of the curriculum in the UK for kids. It's becoming more and more common. And
my kids had a staged lockdown at school, and they were not happy.
Oh, that's not fun. No, that's not fun at all. But this sounds like a blast. But again, it begs the question: why are they doing this way? And I think it's great. It's a great experience for the kids. But again, using UFOs as the central force of this whole issue, you have to say, what's the goal? Are they trying to get children acclimated to extraterrestrial contact? That's my question.
I have no answer for that. I don't know.
I think that must be what they're up to. But we're going to talk to Robert in just a minute about this, because I think all of this ties in to his research and his great books, which are actually, you can't miss these books. You've got to get these books if you are at all interested in the UFO cover-up, because Robert has great information about what's going on in the military, behind the scenes. This is stuff we all want to hear about. So, if you're ready,
I'm ready.
Bring him on the air.
Well, welcome, Robert. You're live on the air with Helene and Patricia.
Hello, Helene and Patricia.
Welcome.
Great to be with you. I was very interested in hearing your story about that kids having those exercises in Britain.
Isn't that wild? What do you make of that?
Well, I'm not sure what to think of it. Just like you, I can tell you that I still teach school. I'm a math teacher at a private school here in Ojai, California, and every class I tell my story. I tell the kids what happened to me, and they're very accepting of it. When I first started telling it some years ago, I would get maybe 50% skeptics and 50% believe me. But more and more, I think the kids are accepting this. It may have to do with some of the activities we've we've done as far as telling our stories, and they have to do somewhat with some of the movies and TV programs that you see nowadays.
Oh, that's true.
But more and more are accepting of it, and Britain, UK, has always been kind of a leader in this area, in the paranormal areas, as you probably know.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, but I'm a little bit surprised that your private school allows you to tell your story.
Well, I don't ask permission.
There you go. That's the key. Don't ask.
Yeah,
just
but they didn't pull it. They haven't spoken to you about it, apparently, and so it's sort of an accepted subject, I guess, these days.
Well, none of the parents have complained so far, so but that wouldn't stop me anyway. I think it's something that needs to be told. Mm-hmm. And so I've been doing this for about 20 years now. I've been talking about my incident, primarily because I think it's an important story, and it needs to get out there.
Well, can you start at the beginning with us, Robert, and tell our audience how you came to get involved with the UFO phenomenon? Now, you were on an Air Force base when you had this experience with missiles, correct?
Oh, that's right.
And this was back in 60-something?
67. Yeah.
Okay.
I was stationed at Malmstrom Air Force Base. I was a launch control officer, which means I had control of 10 nuclear missiles. I was part of a two-man team. At the time, I was a deputy missile commander, and then a year later, I became a missile crew commander. So I was there for 3 years as part of a crew. We'd go out every 3 days. Well, on this particular night, March 24th, 1967, my commander and I were in the capsule. He was taking a rest break, and I get a call from our topside guard. We had, the general way the launch control facility looked is we were in a capsule about 60 feet underground. It was a concrete enclosed capsule. We were locked in for 24 hours. We couldn't leave the capsule, obviously, because we had control of these nuclear missiles. And all the controls were downstairs. I want to make that point. They had no ability topside to interfere or in any way control our missiles. But I had about 6 guards upstairs. Obviously, we needed to guard the facility. It looked like just a little farmhouse in the middle of a wheat field with a fence all the way around it. Sometime in the evening hours, I don't know exactly when it was, the guards called down and said they'd been seeing some strange lights in the sky. They described lights that were, they weren't stars, they weren't meteors, they weren't anything, they weren't aircraft. They couldn't hear any noise, but they knew they weren't aircraft because they made tremendous maneuvers. They were going at very high speed, would stop on a dime, reverse course, make 90-degree angle turns, and things like that. I kind of dismissed that. I didn't pay much attention. I didn't know what they were trying to tell me. And I asked them, I even said, "You mean like UFOs?" And they said, well, because we had in the local paper, the Great Falls Tribune, there had been reports in the previous week about people seeing lights in the sky and reporting them. But they said, well, we can't explain it, sir. We just want to report it to you. So I said, well, thank you very much, and basically hung up. And then a couple minutes later, this time the main guard calling back, and he is screaming into the phone. He's literally, yelling, screaming that he's got all the guards out there with their guns, their weapons drawn, and they're seeing this red oval-shaped object that's just hovering above the front gate, and it's just sitting there. It was pulsating red. He couldn't detect a kind of a structure because the light was bright, but the guards were all up there. They wanted me to tell them what to do next. Well, this was kind of a shock, of course. I didn't expect that. I thought we might be under some kind of an attack, and I certainly told him, don't let anything inside the front gate. Use force if you have to. But that was about it. He hung up the phone. The next thing I turned, actually I'll tell you this part. I actually turned to the board. We had a display panel that showed the status of the missiles, and a large panel that showed each missile, and they were all showing green, meaning they were ready to launch. So I turned to the board, and I had this thought. I wonder if, I swear I had this thought, I wonder if they were going to try to affect our missiles in some way. And I didn't know what was going on upstairs. At that time, like I said, this was seemed like a kind of a terrorist attack, if you will. So I go to wake up my commander who's taking a rest break, and just as I was starting to talk about the phone calls, the missiles started going what we call a no-go condition. In other words, we get a lot of bells and whistles in the capsule, and the lights turn from green to red. And this happened in rapid succession. All 10 of the missiles shut down. We queried the system. We have a way of finding out what the problem is with the missile, and we were getting the same message on each missile, guidance and control system failure. Now, each of these missiles are independent. In other words, they're not strung together like Christmas tree lights. One goes down, they all go down. It doesn't work that way. They had cabling system going to each missile separately. They each had their own separate power sources. They had generators. They had power from the Montana Power Company, and they had batteries. These were all backup systems. But this was not a power failure. I want to make that point, too. This was not a power failure. This was guidance and control system failure, and I can go into that a little bit more later. But, again, we had to go through our procedures. We also had a couple of lights, security lights, which showed that there was an intrusion, if you will, at the missile sites. The missiles themselves are located about a mile or two from the Launch Control Center. So two of the facilities there had intrusion lights or security lights. So I had to call back upstairs, and I asked about this object, and they said it had flown off at high speed, and it was gone. But then I had to order guards to go out to two of these sites. The guards called back in, and when they got there and said they were seeing the same object over the missiles themselves. So there were, if this object or other objects like it were, again, over the missiles. But like I said, all 10 of them had shut down.
Now, when you say that they shut down, you're saying that they were disabled from somewhere else because you didn't have any ability to shut these things down. The people that were the guards there, they didn't have access to it. So this disabling was happening from somewhere else.
Yes, it was an external source, and this was written up. I'll tell you in a minute about how we got some documents, but this was written up in one of the documents that were received about the Echo flight. I was at Oscar flight, and I was about to tell you that when my commander called into the command post, they told him the same thing had happened at another flight of missiles, and this was the Echo flight incident. However, he didn't tell me it was Echo flight at the time. He just turned to me and said the same thing happened. And of course, I assumed the same thing happened that evening.
Right.
But as it turned out, it wasn't that evening. It was a week earlier at this Echo flight, which is about 30 miles to the northwest of where we were. We were near Roy, Montana, a little town called Roy, Montana. And this is about 100 miles east of Great Falls, Montana. The base itself, Malmstrom Air Force Base, is right there, just outside of Great Falls. It was an external source. So, if you will, this object, we concluded that this object was responsible for somehow sending a signal to each of our missiles. And that signal would have had to penetrate 60 feet of earth and concrete and then penetrate the cabling system, which was triply shielded from
oh my
EMI.
Goodness. So you're talking about some incredible technology that could do something we probably couldn't.
Absolutely. This was incredible. And that's why I claim to this day that this was an extraterrestrial object. We certainly had nothing then that could have done anything like that, and shut down our missiles. And I can tell you another story a little later about just how well they knew our system. But let me just continue. We were relieved the next morning by another crew, and then the first thing, of course, I went up and talked to the guard upstairs and asked him to run down with me again what this object looked like, and he said all he could tell was that it was about 40 feet long. It was oval-shaped. It was a red pulsating light. He had trouble detecting interior structure because of the strength of the light. And that's about all I got out of it because they had a helicopter waiting for us there. They wanted to helicopter us back to the base and report to our squadron commander. So we both reported to the squadron commander's office. I was white as a sheet. I went and burst in there and asked him what the heck was going on, because I thought, could this have been some kind of an Air Force exercise?
Oh, okay.
And he said, no, it certainly was not any kind of an exercise, and he didn't know what had happened. With him in the room was a man from Air Force Office of Special Investigation who just shoved a paper in our face and said, sign here. I said, what's this? This is a statement saying that we would never talk about this to anyone, ever. Not our family, not our wife, not anybody in the Air Force, nobody. It was a non-disclosure statement. So we both had to sign that. And we signed it, and that was that for about another, 27 years.
Was there any time limit on that statement, or you're just forever and ever?
No.
You're not supposed to. Wow.
No.
So you're taking
Never,
a big
never.
risk even now talking about this.
Yes, I guess I am. I've been talking about this for almost 20 years, and I have never been contacted by the Air Force or the government saying, they were going to prosecute me for this, talking about it. But I can, let me just jump forward now for 1994. So this was 67, 27 years go by, 1994. I was out of the Air Force. I'd resigned from the Air Force in 1971. I was now retiring from the Federal Aviation Administration, and I was thinking about what to do next, and so I was signed up to become a teacher or get my teaching credential at the University of Washington. So I happened to be in a bookstore there at the University of Washington. Picked up a book called Above Top Secret by Timothy Good, and just happened to turn to page 301. On that page was a short paragraph talking about missiles being shut down during a UFO incident in Montana in 1957. Actually, I think it said 66, but close enough.
Yeah.
And so I got all excited about that. I ran home, and first thing I did is I told my wife about this incident that I'd had in 1967. And so at that point, I decided, because I thought, it described very similar to what I remember. And again, let me just say a little bit about memory of something like this. It had been about 27 years since the incident. I'd been told not to talk about it. I've been ordered. I signed a document not to talk about it. So the best thing to do in that situation is to try to forget it, try to forget the details, and that's what happened, really. I had forgotten most of the details. I'd forgotten the name of my commander. I forgot the location, a lot of details like that. But at any rate, I remembered the basic incident. The missiles being shut down and this object being above us at the time. So I went to the MUFON, the local MUFON organization there, and contacted one of their investigators named James Klotz, who was the co-author of the book I wrote on this incident called Faded Giant. And I asked James if he would go ahead and submit a request to the Air Force about this incident, not to say anything about UFOs, just simply ask for any documents that they can send us about the shutdown of missiles in 1967 at this particular site. And it was described as the Echo Flight in Timothy Good's book. So we're requesting documents about the Echo Flight shutdown. So we did, and lo and behold, we get a letter back from the Air Force saying this has been classified, was still classified, but since it's been so long, they're going to declassify it, and they'll send us some documents about it. So
that's
so they
a surprise.
Did. It was a big surprise. But of course, these, like I said, we didn't mention anything about UFOs. So this request went to a lower level NCO official, and he was just following the law. And the law said after 12 years, things like this can be declassified. So that's what they were doing. They were just following their procedure under the Freedom of Information Act. Lucky for us. So we started getting documents, including telegrams stating that all 10 missiles at Echo Flight shut down within 10 seconds. We got a report called the Unit History Report, which had described some of the activities that went on in investigating the Echo Flight shutdown. And even in that report, there was a small, one little statement that said, rumors of UFO around Echo Flight at the time of the incident had been discredited or something to that effect.
Oh, really? So they just kind of wiped that slate clean.
Or proven false or described it. Now, I don't know how you disprove a rumor.
Yeah.
But that was a statement in there, that the only statement that referred to UFO, which was very telling. But at any rate, as a result of receiving these documents, and as a result of the Air Force stating that the Echo Flight shutdown was no longer classified, I decided to go public. And I did. I just started going on radio and TV shows, and when I went on the Art Bell show, and this would have been November of '96. I've still got the tape recording from it. But I went on the Art Bell show. As a result of that, I started getting more people to come forward, including a man who had worked for Boeing, who ran the Boeing investigative team on the Echo flight investigation. And so we started corresponding, and he in effect told me that absolutely this was a UFO incident. He was told this by his supervisor and by other people that were working on his team, that so that this was indeed a UFO incident. So I had him as a... Go ahead.
You had him now corroborating this from his position,
right.
But I have to go back to your story and how this all unfolded. I mean, these are all Air Force personnel that saw this. These are not just everyday people that work in the grocery store. You know, these are people who are trained to identify objects in the sky, and they were quite, it sounds like, upset by what they were seeing, and especially the man who called you that night to report it and say, this is what we're dealing with. What do you want us to do? Again, these are trained professionals. So the fact that they tried to wipe that out of the report and say all these guys were wrong, and including
right.
this Boeing investigator, is just unconscionable.
Right. And we had contacted also the man that wrote that report, that wrote the unit history report that talks about rumors of UFO were disproven. We got that. Jim Klotz actually is a fantastic investigator, by the way. He did a tremendous job of locating individuals, locating people, and documents. But at any rate, we located this man. I can't remember his name right now, but we wrote to him and asked him about how did they go about disproving the rumor of UFOs. And he wrote back and said, basically, I don't know, because I never talked to any of these people. He never talked to my guards. He never talked to me. He never talked to other people from Echo Flight. Of course, by then I realized that I was not at Echo. I was at Oscar Flight. The two men in the same position that I was in were Eric Carlson and Walt Fiegel. And about the time, or just after I contacted Robert Kaminsky, who's the Boeing investigator. He was the head of the Boeing team, actually. I was able to contact Walt Fiegel. And so I talked to him on the phone. I actually recorded that conversation, and I use that in all my presentations. His comments about absolutely these were UFOs were reported to me at the time of his shutdown, the Echo Flight shutdown, all 10 missiles. And that
here's a perfect example of, again, here you are, trained professionals. You report all of this information, and your superiors just want it expunged from the record, covered up. They want you to sign non-disclosure agreement. And again, this is just proof of everything that we've been saying for so long about the government cover-up of UFOs. Here it is again.
Well, we're going to take this opportunity to take a break right now, and we hope that you all stay tuned as we continue our fascinating discussion with Robert Salas. We'll be right back.
Are you ready for a new experience of freedom and powerful connection? Would you like a positive, effortless change in your life? Then come to CosmicFusion.com, where we offer the most advanced energy clearing and expansion techniques in the world, with a quantum vortex energy to activate your... Are you ready for a new experience of freedom and powerful connection? Would you like a positive, effortless change in your life? Then come to CosmicFusion.com, where we offer the most advanced energy clearing and expansion techniques in the world, with a quantum vortex energy to activate your divine blueprint and life's purpose. When your soul leads the way with cosmic fusion and quantum vortex energy, you can break clear of past difficulties and blocks with the power of the Source. With Cosmic Fusion, the Source energy does the work for you. It's easy and effortless. Listen to our free meditation right from our Cosmic Fusion website, the Cosmic Code Meditation. Sign up for one of our interactive webinars today. Come to Cosmic Fusion, www.KOSMICfusion.com, to experience an effortless awakening and transformation. Are you ready for an upgrade? Are you ready for a new experience of living in the fifth dimensional magic and powerful connection? Then visit CosmicFusion.com today. CosmicFusion.com.
Your property tax bill. Have you seen it lately? It's frightening. Your property taxes are going up while your home value is going down. It's time to fight back and win. For the real truth about the property tax system, get attorney Pat Quintilian's book, Are You Getting Screwed on Your Property Taxes? How to Find Out and How to Fix It. Attorney Quintilian answers all your questions and gives you the facts you need to fight a property tax bill that is spiraling out of control. You'll also read about what happens to property owners who don't check their property records, only to find out too late they're taxed on square footage, fixtures, and even buildings that they don't own. Is this happening to you? Learn your rights. Buy attorney Pat Quintilian's book today. Are You Getting Screwed on Your Property Taxes? How to Find Out and How to Fix It. Available on Amazon.com.
Sometimes life can be a challenge. Would you like insight and guidance to help you make the best choices right now? Contact Helene at angelslighthouse.com to make your personal appointment for a psychic reading or energy alignment. Helene is a direct channel to the angelic realm and is remarkably capable of connecting to the living as well as to your loved ones on the other side. Helene is available to clients all over the world via phone or Skype, and it's simple to set up a group reading anywhere. Visit angelslighthouse.com, where you'll find an easy way to schedule right online. And while you're there, sign up for the Angels Lighthouse newsletter and receive information on all the free energy circles, giveaways, and jewelry with a message. Visit angelslighthouse.com and contact Helene today.
For staying tuned, please call in at 646-478-0828 if you have a question for our expert guest, Robert Salas. And we'll continue our discussion about the disclosure on these documents and all of the people that you contacted, Robert, in connection with this incident.
Yes. Well, you want me to continue on?
Yes.
You've shared quite a bit about, the background of this and the proof of this, and apparently they're letting you talk about this today, which is excellent. But at the same time, it must have been rather troubling to you when you were an officer and in this position, not really having an explanation at the time. Nobody was giving you one, and you didn't know really what was happening. Did you ever think back on that and just wonder about it, or they told you to forget about it? Like you said, you did forget about it.
Yeah, even at the time I thought it was very strange that we weren't getting any feedback. We had briefings every day before we went out to the field, and I was expecting them to at least tell us something about their investigation, what was going on. but nothing. I was there another 2 years or so after my incident, and we never heard another word about it. And it wasn't until after I started receiving documents and started investigating this that I was able to uncover the facts that about the ongoing Condon investigation. And I can get into that a little bit now if you like.
Yes, please.
In 1966, the Air Force decided to go ahead and try to quell some of the outcry from actually the Michigan sightings that were occurring in 1966. And they announced that they were going to have a so-called scientific investigation of the UFO phenomenon. And they awarded University of Colorado $500,000 award to investigate UFOs. They appointed a man by the name of Edward Condon. Edward Condon. Condon, a little background on him. He was a physicist that was working on the Manhattan Project, first atom bomb project, in 1944 when he was dismissed, let's say, from that over security issues. And in 1946, he was appointed by Truman to head up let's see, it was weights and measures. I'm trying to think. Anyway, it was a government agency that had control over the Atomic Energy Commission. And J. Edgar Hoover, in a letter, which I've got a copy of, stated that Condon was in fact a Soviet spy. Oh. And so, after a few years of investigation, his security clearance was taken away from him, and this was pretty devastating to him because he worked a lot of government projects, but now he was without a security clearance. 1951, I think it was. Well, in 1966, the Air Force came to him and said, "Would you head up our UFO investigation? And as kind of an award, we'll reinstate your security clearance." So, to me, that was quite a deal.
That was a strange choice, wasn't it?
Yes, I think it was.
It's strange to me that he's accused of being a spy and he's still allowed to be in the country. Even though you stripped him of his security clearance, he was still here in this country.
Right.
Not in jail.
In fairness, Hoover accused a lot of people of being spies, but this was pretty dramatic. It was, like I said, he was under the Truman administration. He had a high position in the Truman administration. I don't know why he wasn't further prosecuted, but anyway, that's the setting going in. He and his assistant Robert Lowe early on stated that this was probably a fool's errand. They didn't think much of the UFO phenomenon, et cetera. But in 1966, the program got started. They appointed this man by the name of Roy Craig to head up the investigation, the investigative group. They were supposed to work with Air Force personnel, including Air Force officers at various bases, including Malmstrom Air Force Base. They assigned a man by the name of Colonel Chase as the base UFO officer to work with them. Well, 1967 comes along. My incident happens. The Echo flight shut down. Significant UFO incidents. And working for Sylvania at the time, Sylvania had the electrical systems contract for the Minuteman system. But working for Sylvania on this program was Raymond Fowler, who you probably both know.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing.
Yes. But yes.
Raymond Fowler was heading the Sylvania team, and he had contractors on site that informed him that, yes, indeed, this was a UFO incident. In fact, one of his workers there at Malmstrom had seen the objects. And so Fowler was what's called an early warning investigator for the Condon investigation. Reported this to the Dr. Roy Craig, who, by the way, never had any investigative experience, but he was a chemistry teacher at the University of Colorado. But anyway, he reported this to Craig. Craig actually visited Fowler. Fowler gave him names and phone numbers of people to contact at Malmstrom Air Force Base about this. So Craig goes to Malmstrom in October of '67. He walks into Colonel Chase's office, who is the base operations officer, and also the UFO officer working with the Condon investigation, and tells him, I would like to investigate this. I hear that UFOs were involved. Well, Chase stopped him right there and said, first of all, he didn't know how he had heard about the Echo shutdowns, because this was a classified incident. All the documents that I received early on were classified secret. So this was a classified incident, and the Condon team, amazingly enough, did not have access to classified information.
That's funny. So they had no ability to investigate this at all.
Exactly, and that's exactly what Chase told Craig. He said, this is being investigated. The Echo shutdown is being investigated. However, it's classified, and I cannot discuss it with you. If you want to get any more information about it, you'll have to go through sources in Washington, D.C. And Robert Lowe was the only person who could review classified documents if given access by the Air Force. Well, even though Robert Lowe, the deputy to Condon, requested the investigative report on the Echo shutdown, they turned him down and basically tried to explain it away as saying it was due to EMP, electromagnetic pulse from nuclear bomb testing in Nevada, if you can believe that. That's what they told him. That's in writing.
Did everybody else laugh when they read it?
They should have, because if that had been the case, then all the missiles would have shot. I mean, we had 150 missiles at Malmstrom, and it would have affected all of them.
Well, let me ask you this, Robert, because, I mean, you've done such a great job documenting all of this. Faded Giant is a great book, and Raymond Fowler actually wrote the foreword for this book. And right. Ray's a great writer, and it's really, I know, an honor to have him involved in any of your projects. He's also the author of The Andreasen Affair, which was a bestseller on the New York Times bestseller list about UFO abduction of Betty Andreasen, who I know you know quite well. So it's, you know, this is just an incredible story, but why, I'm just going to ask you this, and you may not even know the answer, but why did they shut those missiles down? What do you think? Why did they do that? Well,
it's speculation on my part, but of course there have been many, many more incidents involving UFOs and nuclear weapons. So to me, I've always thought that this was a message. And the message was, get rid of your nukes, get rid of your nuclear weapons, because certainly they're not weapons of war. We could not possibly fight a war with these things, because they would simply destroy life. It's massive destruction of life on Earth, and it would probably be the end of us, the end of our civilization as we know it. So basically, I think it was just a message from ET. If you want to continue this civilization on Earth, you better get rid of these nuclear weapons. And that's another thing that motivates me more than a lot of, mostly is the objective of abolishing nuclear weapons worldwide.
And that's quite a great mission to be on. I mean, to dismantle our war, not only the structure, but the mentality we have around that. So I admire your courage in bringing this forward. And, again, your documentation is extensive, and that's what people need to know, is that this isn't just you saying this is your experience. You have documents that back up everything you're saying. So this is a real event, and as you said, this was not the only event. This happened multiple times, multiple locations.
Yeah, I can run over some of these. In 1945, and this is documented by statements of the pilots, UFOs were chased by Navy pilots over Hanford, Washington, nuclear fuel processing plant. This was before the first atomic bomb test. UFOs were chased, actually. They were seen over the Hanford nuclear facility, which was a highly secretive facility. They were chased by Navy pilots. So there were at least a couple of incidents of that. And 47, the Roswell incident, a very famous incident, the 509th Bomber Group was the only atomic bomber base in the United States in 1947 during that. In the 50s, lots of sightings in Nevada near Yucca Flats where they were testing nuclear warheads for missiles. In 59, Beale Air Force Base, and again, these are documented, B-52 base, 62, Ramey Air Force Base, during the Cuban Missile Crisis. UFOs were seen at Ramey Air Force Base. B-52s were on the ready there in case that got worse. 63, Walker Air Force Base, Atlas Missile Site. Lieutenant Jerry Nelson was a witness that spoke at a conference we had in Washington, D.C. in 2010. And he talks about that. 64, Vandenberg Air Force Base. 66, Minot. 68, Minot again. In this case, Major Bradford Runyon was flying a B-52. Saw the object chased. He chased this object that chased him, and was later told that at one of the missile sites, the cover, which is a 20-ton concrete cover over the launch facility where the missiles are, was removed, actually physically taken off the missile site.
Oh, my goodness.
If you can believe that. 20
wow.
tons by this object, by this UFO. And
so it lifted 20 tons of concrete right up off the top of this missile.
Absolutely. That's exactly what he reported. 76, again, Francis C. Warren Air Force Base, Minuteman 3. In this case, there's another witness that came forward for us, which I'm kind of proud of. Other people, other witnesses, other Air Force people have come forward and talked about their incidents at missile bases.
Which again takes a lot of courage, because I'm sure they all had to sign non-disclosures and
yes.
were debriefed a million times and told never to talk about this. But this is such an important topic to discuss. There are apparently extraterrestrials in our skies, and they have the ability to outdo us on many levels of technology and other things. So, and still the government is involved in heavy cover-up around this issue. And again, you've got the documents that show exactly what they're doing. So there's really, it's pretty incontrovertible evidence. I mean, it's just, this is what they're doing. I don't even know why people question this anymore.
Well, yeah, I think I've got a pretty good case, like you say, and I've got a lot of witnesses. I told you I had Walt Siegel, the deputy commander at Echo Flight, on tape, and he agreed to allow me to use that tape in all my presentations. You can hear his voice talking about his incident, very similar to mine. And my commander, Fred Mywald, who's now deceased, but I have him on tape, talking about, verifying what happened. Robert Jameson was head of the maintenance team that went out to Oscar flight and brought up the missiles. And he again was notified that this was a UFO event. Was actually briefed on what to do if he saw UFOs in the area. So I have got quite a few witnesses talking about Arnie Arneson was at the cryptographic center when a telegram came in saying UFOs were seen during the missile shutdowns, things like that. So, and then the documents I have talking about the cover-up. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you have the complete package. If anybody has any doubt, they've got to pick up your book, Faded Giant, and also The Unidentified. These two books really tell the story inside and out about the UFO phenomenon. And I know you and I, Helene, have talked at length about, are these real ships? Are these interdimensional? Are these just energetic? Well, and I think these are, from what Robert's saying, these are real. This is the real deal.
Well, these are the real deal, and I want to know, Robert, what it was like for you to go through the psychological process of facing a memory that you had allowed to lapse.
Wow. Well, it was a bit nerve-wracking. I, of course, remember the basics of the incident, and but the more people, and of course I had forgotten a lot of the details, but the more people I talked to, the more people that were willing to talk about it with me, some of those details started coming back, and slowly but surely I pieced together the facts. And I wanted to be accurate, of course, because there's so many UFO stories out there that don't have a basis for what they're saying other than the statements, and that's not to say that a lot of them aren't true. It's just that they don't have things to back them up. I made a strong effort to make sure I had corroboration on all the points that I've been telling you tonight, and all the points I bring up in my book.
Well, the way I'm getting you is that when this whole incident was actually happening, and then you were told not to talk about it, it almost became so surreal in your mind that it was easy to put it aside. Okay, I'm just not going to look at this. Maybe it didn't really happen. And then when all the information came flooding back in details from other people speaking about it and documents you got, it must have been like going back and reliving it again. I would imagine it would have been a little bit traumatic to really realize that this was something that actually did happen, and it became alive again in you.
Okay, yeah, you have a good point. I wouldn't use the word traumatic, but I would use the word, what you said about being surreal. Yeah. Absolutely. To me, even during the investigating, when I was doing all this investigation, it felt like, I kept shaking my head like, is this real? I mean, am I imagining some of this? Because we're talking about something, paranormal, not normal. It's something that we can't really explain. How, for example, could these intelligently controlled objects know so much about our technology? How could they fly here from another planetary system, or how did they get here? There's so many questions. One story I would like to mention, I didn't mention before. We did get one witness who I consider highly, highly credible. He's an executive at a very well-known aerospace company, and so he has asked me not to reveal his identity. But he was on the one of the teams, targeting teams that went out to one of the Echo flight facilities to bring that missile back up on alert. And when he was out there, he had a guard upstairs. He went down into the maintenance bay to go ahead and work his procedures with a checklist. And while he was down there, the guard shook the ladder, asked him to come up. And so he goes up, and the guard points to a glowing orange ball, a large, he said it was a bit larger than a basketball, but it was a glowing orange ball type thing, and it was just hovering right above the facility there. And the guard was scared to death, didn't know what to think of this lighted object. But this man decided he had to go back down and finish his job. And so he went down and went through his checklist, trying to bring the missile back up on alert. This object was still above him overhead. And he told me he went to this certain point in the checklist to bring the missile back up on alert, and then the missile would shut down. And he kept trying this over and over, and every time he reached a certain part of the checklist, the missile shut down again. And he said he could feel kind of an electrostatic effect coming down the tube that was right by him while he was working on the missile. He said it was that was just astounding to him, but it shows it to me and to him. It demonstrated that these objects, whatever they are, understood our systems very, very well. They understood how they worked very well.
Did you ever receive any information about what kind of object this was, whether it was coming from the Earth itself or whether it was coming from outside planet Earth?
Information, you mean official information from
Not
government?
official information, but maybe some other witnesses or investigators that might have received other information. Did anybody identify?
No, these are by nature unidentified, and they're. I believe the government does have recovered craft, and certainly what I call the International UFO Cabal does have access to recovered objects and recovered beings. But of course, the public and I myself have no access or no knowledge really of what these objects are. But I have reason to believe that our government has tried to back engineer the technology and try to construct similar craft, at least to try to understand the propulsion system.
Well, on this
so
note,
I do have some reason to believe that.
Wow. Well, on this note, we'd love to hear your abduction story, and we're going to take this opportunity to take another break, and we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Your property tax bill. Have you seen it lately? It's frightening. Your property taxes are going up while your home value is going down. It's time to fight back and win. For the real truth about the property tax system, get attorney Pat Quintilian's book, Are You Getting Screwed on Your Property Taxes? How to Find Out and How to Fix It. Attorney Quintilian answers all your questions and gives you the facts you need to fight a property tax bill that is spiraling out of control. You'll also read about what happens to property owners who don't check their property records, only to find out too late they're taxed on square footage, fixtures, and even buildings that they don't own. Is this happening to you? Learn your rights. Buy attorney Pat Quintilian's book today. Are You Getting Screwed on Your Property Taxes? How to Find Out and How to Fix It. Available on Amazon.com.
Are you ready for a new experience of freedom and powerful connection? Would you like a positive, effortless change in your life? Then come to CosmicFusion.com, where we offer the most advanced energy clearing and expansion techniques in the world, with a quantum vortex energy to activate your divine blueprint and life's purpose. When your soul leads the way with cosmic fusion and quantum vortex energy, you can break clear of past difficulties and blocks with the power of the source. With cosmic fusion, the source energy does the work for you. It's easy and effortless. Listen to our free meditation right from our Cosmic Fusion website, the Cosmic Code Meditation. Sign up for one of our interactive webinars today. Come to Cosmic Fusion, www.KOSMICfusion.com, to experience an effortless awakening and transformation. Are you ready for an upgrade? Are you ready for a new experience of living in the fifth dimensional magic and powerful connection? Then visit CosmicFusion.com today. CosmicFusion.com.
Robert Salas. Boy, this is some kind of discussion. I'm absolutely fascinated, aren't you, Patricia?
Oh, yes. This is one of my favorite topics, and what's so wonderful is, Robert, the way you have, again, documented everything so thoroughly, which totally backs up your experience and the eyewitness accounts of other people. And, again, I have to ask, why does anybody even question this anymore? It's just, this is how it is. So please, do tell us. Now, you mentioned that you are just beginning to talk about your own abduction experience. How did this, did you have a recovered memory of this, or what happened?
Well, in 1985, of course, like I told you, I didn't go public until 1994. So 1985, I'm living here in a beach community here in Southern California, and I have two small children, my wife, and I remember specifically the house, and sometime in the evening, and what I'm telling you now is recovered memories as a result of 3 hypnotherapy sessions I've had. And so I just go over what I'm convinced of as what happened.
Well, before you go into that, what made you think that? What made you decide to go ahead and have hypnotherapy? Did you have missing time, or did you have something that just kind of didn't sit right with you from that event, something that happened back in '85?
Yeah. Well, of course, I didn't have hypnotherapy until, let's say, I'm guessing now, about 5 years ago. And this, of course, was after I went public with my UFO incident. And I started getting interested in other aspects of the UFO phenomenon, including abduction. So I started reading about it and talking to people, and then I guess slowly it dawned on me that something had happened to me in earlier, and it took a while for me to figure out what year it was, and where I was at the time. And I went through these sessions some years ago, but it wasn't until about a year ago that I decided that I should talk about it, because the abduction part of this phenomenon has been kind of put aside, let's say, or kind of given short shrift
Yeah, that's putting it mildly. I mean, basically, anybody who has an abduction experience, it's not like they get a pat on the back and a gold star. They face a lot of scrutiny, harassment, abuse, whatever. I mean, it's not a pleasant ride for most abductees.
No, and I thought, well, and of course, I hesitated because I thought, it would detract from my story. It would detract from how people saw me as a credible witness, and so I hesitated, of course, not to come forward. But finally, I decided, I really got to talk about this to give more credence to this part of the phenomenon. And so that's why I'm coming forward now.
Good for you. It takes a lot of courage.
Well, yeah, it does in the sense that I'm still I have to fight the ridicule factor, and in fact already I've received one or two people have told me that I never should have done that, and they're not sure about my other story now because I've talked about this. But be that as it may, this is what happened to me, and of course I wish it hadn't happened, but it did happen, so I'm going to talk about it, and this is part of the phenomenon. So 1985, one evening, and I'm guessing it was, not guessing, but I'm pretty sure it was 85 or 86 because I remember the house exactly. And what we had done was we were remodeling houses in Manhattan Beach, trying to get closer and closer to the beach. So I would remodel and sell the house, remodel another one, buy another one, remodel it, and then sell it, and slowly work my way towards the coast. But so I knew where I was in 85. I knew this house. Sometime in the evening, I wake up and see a blue light in the living room, and strange color, blue. I was concerned, a little frightened that somebody might be in the house. Of course, we had two small children, and I woke my wife and told her something is in the house, or there's a light out there in our living room, and I told her I was going to go investigate, and she actually saw the blue light. She saw the blue light, and it wasn't until much later that I realized that. But so I start to get up off the bed, and all of a sudden I'm paralyzed. I cannot move. I try really hard. I mean, I really, and this is part of why I'm fully convinced this was not a dream, because I remember struggling so hard to get my mobility back because we had two small kids in the house, and I was really frightened. So I was really struggling hard, and finally I kind of just couldn't make any headway. The next thing I recall was seeing a hooded figure in the doorway to our bedroom, and I couldn't make out the face. But and by the way, before that, I turned to my wife and said, "Help me!" I remember yelling out, "Help me!" And she was unconscious. She was out.
So she didn't respond to you at all?
No, she didn't respond to me at all. And of course, normally she would have. First of all, she's a very light sleeper, but second of all, we had our two small kids in the house. Anyway, I see this hooded object, or this hooded figure in the doorway, and the next thing I recall is sensing that there were others in the room, and then the next thing I recall is being lifted off the bed, almost like floating. Actually, I was floating off the bed and floating towards our bedroom window. Now, I recall having locked the windows in the bedroom And I remember thinking, they don't know how to open my window.
What a funny thought.
Yeah, it was kind of a funny thought. Anyway, I remember thinking that as I was floating by my unconscious wife on the bed. Well, as it turns out, it didn't matter. The window was never opened, and I recall going through the window. I know this sounds very, very weird, but I recall actually going through the window. The window was not opened. The other thing, I don't recall going up or into a ship, or I didn't see a ship outside. The next thing I recall was being on a table and being shown a long needle. They actually put this needle right in front of my eyes. They wanted me to see it. And it was very long. I would say at least a foot or more long.
Oh.
Yeah. And the next thing, they told me they were going to insert this needle in me and it would not hurt. These were, of course, messages that were coming to me.
So is this telepathic? It wasn't heard with your ears? Uh-huh.
I didn't hear any speaking, no. But this is what I was informed of somehow, that this would not hurt. Well, they started inserting this needle into, into my groin area, and it hurt like hell. I mean, it really, really was painful. And I told them so. I said, this is really, really painful, and that's the other reason I am certain this was not a dream, because I remember the pain. The pain was the most excruciating thing I'd ever felt.
So this is real physical pain that you were in.
Real physical pain.
So when they said it wasn't going to hurt, they didn't mean you. They meant it wasn't going to hurt them. So
well,
they forgot to mention that it was going to hurt you. So, yeah, that's awful. But, again, it gives you some validity to this experience. It says this was a physical reality experience because you had physical pain.
Exactly. But as soon as I expressed that it was hurting, the pain went away almost instantly. It went away instantly, and there was no pain after that. After that, I recall sitting up on this table, my feet dangling. I was nude, and there were two beings or creatures, whatever you want to call them, on either side of me. They helped me off the table and sat me at what looked like a bench area. And a little later, I was taken to another room and checked by another creature or being. And again, the physical aspects of these beings are still hazy in my mind. I know they were short, but other than that, I can't. I haven't gotten to the point where formulating what they would exactly look like. Except I'll tell you about what I think was a dream later on. But
so you could say whether they would be like the Greys, which are often described as abducting people and doing experiments like that. You're not sure if it was the Greys or not?
No, but they were shorter than me. Let's put it that way. They were smaller than I.
Mm-hmm.
But 5'10". I was taking this other room, and this other being, I remember specifically poking me in the back, like two fingers up and down my spine. After that, I recall being taken through a tunnel, an angular tunnel or a circular tunnel, and saw a bright white light at the end of the tunnel, and next thing I knew, I was in my bed. So that's all the memory, actual recall from these hypnotherapy sessions I've had, that I'm able to say with fair certainty of what happened.
Do you remember seeing any marks on your body the next day that you couldn't explain?
The next day, I don't recall any of this, and my wife didn't recall any of it. We didn't recall the blue light. We didn't even talk about it. We didn't even mention it. Now, 2 weeks later, and I'm estimating about 2 or 3 weeks later, I was digging in my garden in my yard and just doing yard work, and I suddenly stopped and had this, I don't know, impression or thought that I had flown in space. And it just hit me as kind of a feeling that I had experienced space flight. And I remember that. I remember, like I said, I was digging my garden. I remember it very clearly. I just paused, stopped, and had this moment of remembering flying in space, seeing stars and seeing the blackness of space and things like that. And that's about all as far as what I can tell you of my incident for sure, but fairly certain of what happened. Now, I've had other dreams. In one dream, I did see a big black eye, a big oval-shaped eye with very glassy appearance, no pupil, but just a big black eye right by my face. Anyway, there are other little things, but I'd rather not go into that right now because I'm still trying to piece all this together. I have not had therapy for this kind of hypnotherapy for a while now, for a year or so, but I don't know where to take this from here other than...
Yeah, I mean, again, this sounds very similar to many other adventures that abductees have had, being taken from their bedroom at night. You often hear that. You often hear being placed on a table. And with the long needle, also, I've heard other people talk about it being placed in their eye. So it's, but it's, again, this big long needle. This is all of this is common themes that run through abduction experiences. Now, again, I just want to ask you, obviously you must think about, why me? Why did they do this to me? Or why did they bring me on this?
Right. I couldn't answer that. Why me? I've been asked if this, I think it's related to my other incident that I described. Of course, I wouldn't know for sure, but I do think that I have this strong sense of responsibility to tell my story and keep telling my story to anyone who will listen. I'm talking about the UFO incident at Malmstrom. And I feel responsible for doing that, and also promoting the idea of the abolition of nuclear weapons. And so it may be that they have given me this objective to do that. And
so it's almost like this
that could have been one of the reasons.
This abduction experience could just be another piece of validation for you that all of this is very real, and all of this is going on. And certainly there's I don't know how many hundreds or thousands of people that have told stories, and shared their experience. I hate to say story because it's not a story; it's an experience. Have shared their experiences of contact with ETs and being in the ship and remembering some of the things like you've mentioned. And I've also heard a lot of people say that what sparked their memory was this experience of coming across owls. And as it turns out, it wasn't an owl. It was an extraterrestrial, but that's the best that the mind could do with the experience, with that kind of a close encounter of the third kind. So it's all fascinating. It's all fascinating. And then you have the deeper questions. What are they doing here? Why are they taking people aboard the ship? What were they doing with that long needle? And I know you and I discussed this briefly the other day, Robert, that you do have some speculative thought on that. So why don't you share that? Because I know this is of great interest to people. What are they doing here, and why are they taking people?
Well, that's a good question. Again, this is all speculative. I do think that one of they do have objectives. Obviously, they all the sightings, people seeing these objects. I think the reason for that is, first of all, they want to tell us humans that they are here. Number one, that's obvious. They are here. But the abduction part of it shows that they've got some kind of objective regarding us humans. There's some program or objective they have with us, and the fact that there's so many stories out there about hybridization between humans and extraterrestrials, producing hybrid children, hybrid babies. That has to be part of this objective. They, for some reason, and of course, in doing my investigations, I've come across many people. Like I said, I've been speaking about this for nearly 20 years. I always get people coming to me, telling me their stories. And I've heard many stories of people being abducted as children and being taken to kind of a nursery school or a school setting where they're taught paranormal things like kinesiology or reading people's minds, things like that. So there seems to be some objective where they want to integrate not only them and us, but physically, in a very physical way. Like I said, breeding hybrid children. And so that is, I think, part of their objective.
And do you think that they're doing this to eventually kind of take over the planet that way, so that they'll repopulate?
Well, again, I have no way of knowing. I wouldn't want to even speculate about taking over the planet. To me, they've been here for a long, long, long time. If they wanted to take over the planet, they probably would have done it by now. I think it may be something much less subtle than that, where they want to raise our level of understanding or consciousness of the universe, our level of intelligence, if you will. And I think getting rid of nuclear weapons is part of this. I think, if they are, and I think they are, very advanced beings, they have probably been through the same process of fighting wars and building nuclear bombs, similar to what we're going through. And they have somehow come out of that by ridding themselves of these weapons. And so I think they're basically telling us, in order to progress in your development, you've got to get rid of these weapons.
Right. And then you're also saying that it sounds like what you're saying is that you feel they're fairly benevolent.
Yeah, of course that's a relative term, but I don't think they're malevolent. I'm of that opinion, but of course this is all speculative. But yeah, I think they're trying to help us evolve. Which
would make sense. I mean, again, as you mentioned, they're so advanced. If they did want to do us harm or just to move in and move us out, it'd be easy enough for them to do with the technology they have. Yes.
I think so, yes. Yeah.
Now, let me just go back also and revisit this experience with the nuclear missiles, because I believe in your book you talk about the fact that there was a truck driver that had a sighting at the same time that you guys were having your experience. Is that true?
Right. Before we leave my incident, I just want to mention the fact that my wife, Marilyn, also saw the blue light, and she confirmed this to me years ago. But it wasn't until after I started getting into hypnotherapy that she came to me and said, yes, she saw the blue light also. So that's another reason that I'm I'm pretty certain this happened. At any rate,
another piece to the puzzle, that's for sure.
Right. On March 24th, there was a truck driver driving through a little town called Belt, Montana, just outside of Great Falls. And he's driving along the highway there and sees this lighted object, light just to his left, and very large, bright white light, just kind of pacing his truck as he's driving down the highway. He slams on the brake, and the object hovers over a gully. He gets on his radio and calls the Highway Patrol, Montana Highway Patrol, sends out a patrolman by the name of Bud Nader, and they both see this object, and Nader makes a call back to his base, and they send more patrolmen out there. But anyway, they see the object descend into a gully just outside of the town of Belt, and they both see the object there. It's pretty amazing. They call the Air Force. The Air Force gets involved. The Air Force sends people out there. They also see the object, and this is all written up in a Blue Book report, by the way. By this time, it has turned dark, and they claim in the report, the Blue Book report, that it's too late to bring a helicopter out there to check this out. The next morning, they do bring helicopters out, but then the object had departed, was gone. But they do find broken tree branches and anyway, indications that the object had landed there. Now, why is this important? Well, first of all, it's a very well-documented report in Blue Book. It's called the Belt Sighting. I call it the Belt Sighting, but it's anybody can get access to this if they have access to the Blue Book reports. But why it's important is because Robert Jameson, who was called out that evening of the 24th to bring back Oscar flight back up on alert. That was my flight that went down. He recalls that was the night of the Belt sighting because that was the talk of the base. And also on that evening, the March 24th evening, airmen had reported seeing the object fly right down the flight line, and they had seen it on radar. All this is in a Blue Book report. So there were many people, the Air Force and civilians, including the Highway Patrol, saw this object, and that's how Jameson was able to nail down the date of the Oscar incident, March 24th.
Okay, so again, here you have more corroboration, again, from solid witnesses, more patrolmen who also saw the object, and also a probable landing site.
Right.
So again, there's just more and more and more information here that pulls this story together and says this is what happened, this is the truth. Now, given the fact that you are talking about this and have been for some time, and you have 2 books out, have you experienced anything that you would call harassment or an unusual curiosity by the government in you and what you're doing?
Well, I can point to one incident. You can call it that. In 1969, I was transferred from Maelstrom Air Force Base to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base to ostensibly to finish up my master's degree. I was studying for a degree in engineering, master's degree in engineering at Maelstrom Air Force Base. And I saw no reason. I only needed a couple more classes, and I saw no reason to be transferred to Wright-Pat. But of course, that was the home of Blue Book, and Blue Book was still in existence then. I believe Blue Book was supposedly dismantled at the end of 1969 or late 1969. Anyway, I was ordered to go to Wright-Patterson. So I went to Wright-Patterson, even though I didn't think there was any reason for it, because I could have done the courses back at Maelstrom. After I was there at Wright-Pat for a week or two, I run into an old buddy from the Air Force Academy. He was an upperclassman, had been an upperclassman. Had given me a hard time, but anyway, he was really glad to see me and said, I think we've got a job for you after you get your degree. And I said, what kind of a job? He said, well, I'll talk to you later about it. Okay, so another week goes by. And then I get a call from the base psychiatrist's office. Now, I had not complained about anything, my mental state or anything like that. I had no reason to see a base psychiatrist, but I, again, was ordered to go to the base psychiatrist. So I show up, and the orderly comes out and says, okay, the psychiatrist will see you now. I said, no, what is all this about? And he said, well, the psychiatrist will explain it to you. And I said, no, I want the psychiatrist to come out here and tell me why I'm here. And so he comes back about 15 minutes later and says, well, you're dismissed, sir. You can go.
So what was that about? Why did they want you to see a psychiatrist?
Exactly. And again, I'm speculating, but if I had gone to see the psychiatrist and they had somehow asked me to talk about my UFO incident, of course that would have been on my record and as kind of a nut, and that would have been the end of my career. And I don't know. That could have been part of it. The other part of it, again, I'm convinced that the Air Force continued to study the UFO program after 1969. They claimed that they stopped doing that. But the center of that activity would have been there at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. So I think maybe they were trying to recruit me as part of the inner circle because I'd had my experience. And this is another way they have of keeping witnesses quiet, and that is to bring them in and have them, give them information that would keep them quiet.
Wow, so you don't know who to trust in a situation like that. That's really kind of more scary than being taken out of your bed at night. So I have a question here from the chat room, and the question is, do you believe that the Air Force has a TR-3B, which triangle, I guess what I asked was, what are those? And he said triangle-shaped UFOs.
Well, excuse me. A few years ago, I went out to, Edwards Air Force Base, and I had just on a regular tour, just a tour of the base, and one of the strange experimental aircraft they had out there was a triangular-shaped aircraft. Yeah, I don't know what the designation of that aircraft was. I've been out of the Air Force since 1971, so I couldn't tell you if it was a TR-3B or what. But it was triangular shaped, and if you look at it, you squint your eyes at it, it looks looks a little like a UFO. But,
I bet if it's flying overhead too, that's what you think.
Yeah.
And now this same person in the chat room is writing in, and he says, supposedly we have a device that negates 80% of gravity. So do you have any information on that?
I have no information about that, no.
Okay.
I couldn't confirm that. I'll tell you another story, though, that where I mentioned that I think the Air Force has back-engineered these craft. This was mid-'70s, I think. I was working for FAA and flying north out of L.A. on an aircraft, and then on a commercial flight, and I'm walking down the aisle, and I run into an old classmate of mine. This is from the Air Force Academy, and we'd also started flight school together, so we knew each other very well. We had spent all the 4 years together, and he was in the same squadron as I, so we were pretty glad to see each other. And he said to me, right in the aisleway there, he said, "You'll never guess what I'm flying now." And I kind of just jokingly said, "What, UFOs?" And he turned white as a sheet, and then whispered in my ear, "MiGs." And and then he turned around and went back to his seat, and I thought he was going to wait for me after I got off the airplane, but he took off. I never heard from him again. Now, MiGs is a term that was used in Project Blue Book for unidentified flying objects.
Oh.
Because the Foreign Technology Division at Wright-Patt was originally set up to study Soviet aircraft, or MiGs. And but as part of that group was the UFO group. And so whenever they talked about UFOs, they mentioned, they referred to them as MiGs.
So this is where the UFO...
To me, that told me a lot.
It really says a lot.
Indeed, the Air Force was trying to use the UFO technology that they had recovered in back-engineered craft.
So this is where the UFO field becomes very complex, because then we have our Air Force, which has these craft, and to us they look like UFOs, but in fact they're back-engineered and they're super advanced aircraft. Then we have the things that you saw that are possibly coming from other planets, but certainly very solid and real and very advanced. And then there could be a whole other category of interdimensional or energetic things coming through. So, I would think, and this is the sad part, this is where I think people begin to just say, oh, forget it. It's too complex. Nobody's coming forward with proof that I can hold in my hand. So it just becomes too much, I think, for a lot of people. But again, if you look at your book and your proof and your documents, it's solid as rock. And it's just a shame, I think, that the government doesn't come clean on some of this and say, yes, this is our craft. And, our tax dollars are paying for these things, right?
Right. And the government are what I call the UFO cabal, which includes not only our government, but other intelligence agencies in other countries. But what they're relying on are two things. One is the ridicule factor, which is a major force in keeping people quiet, and people don't want to talk about their experiences. They don't want other people to think there's And that's one thing which has been very effective over the years. And the other thing is what you mentioned and that is this is a very complex subject that involves many facets, and all of them being out of this world. I mean, just things we can only barely imagine. Speeds they fly at, what they're able to do, what the ETs are able to do, things like that. It's just hard to believe. It's hard to accept. It's hard to assimilate it into your reality. And even I, like I said, who have had this experience, had to go through a long process of assimilation. In other words, really accepting this as a true reality. And it's only been some few years ago when I finally got to that point. Even though I was talking about this, it was still even hard for me to believe.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, they find it hard to wrap their minds around this concept. And there's other people who, again, they look at your documentation and they hear all the stories and the experiences coming from witnesses, and you just can't discount it. It's real. So, but you bring up a very interesting and troubling point, which is how the government turns this around and uses this information against people who are telling the truth by using ridicule, by also using disinformation as a way to turn everybody on their ear, and just so nobody knows what the heck's going on.
Yeah, and a good case in point is the Rendlesham Forest case. Are you familiar with that one?
Oh, yes. That's a huge case over in England.
Right. 1980. There were many, many witnesses, and again, these are our U.S. Air Force personnel that were using this base, Bentwaters base, in England. And over a 3-night period, objects were seen out in the forest just outside the base. Now, these individuals many of them were taken and interrogated by our own intelligence agencies, and I think also the British intelligence agency. Not only were they interrogated at length, but they were drugged, and many of them have stated this, that they were given some kind of drugs and interrogated at length, and probably false memories were induced or convoluted stories were induced. But as a result, you have some of the witnesses saying some things that as other witnesses say that didn't happen or did not match their memories of the events. So, again, this is a perfect example of the disinformation effort that our intelligence agencies made on these witnesses, to the point where I think right now the Bentwaters case, well, it's an important case because of the extent of it, the number of witnesses, etc., is still, I would say, a little bit of a damaged case because we don't have a coherent story. In other words, we don't have everybody telling the same set of facts. And this is exactly what they want, the intelligence community wants. They want to discredit cases like this.
And why? What's your take on that? I know you can probably only speculate, but you understand the military mind and the military way of life because you lived it for a while. And what's the point of this tactic in keeping from the public?
Well, I think initially in 1947, after the Roswell case, you remember at first the Air Force said that they had recovered saucers, and then they immediately the next day said no, these were just weather balloons.
Yeah.
So I think the cover-up started then, and I think initially it was because we had just been through World War II. We had to worry about the Russians. We didn't need another so-called enemy to worry about. We didn't want to panic the public. We didn't want to worry the public, and so it was the cover-up began. Now, as time went on, and as the Air Force was able to recover craft and investigate this further and get involved more and get more artifacts and more witnesses, and they began to realize that these objects were extraterrestrial. They were highly advanced, and there was nothing we or the military could do to defend ourselves against them. So what would be the point of disclosing the truth to the public? We would have to admit there's nothing we can do about this. Now, wouldn't that have caused a major panic or an upheaval in our systems, our social systems, etc.? And that was probably the thinking then. Now, as time further went on to today, let's say, like you and I have speculated, we don't think these extraterrestrial craft and creatures are malevolent. They're not trying to destroy us. They're not trying to destroy our missiles, etc. So why keep the secret? Now, I personally think that the reason the secret's still being held is because it is being closely guarded by a small, essential core of people. All the secrets, all the knowledge is condensed into the hands of a few, not a few, but a core group of people. And this knowledge is extremely powerful. I mean, we're talking about interplanetary travel. We're talking, and a lot of other paranormal things that would be very valuable things to know. These are valuable secrets, and I think it's a question of greed and of power, because there's a lot of power in controlling these kinds of secrets. So I think the reason has evolved. The reason for the cover-up and not telling the public has evolved to what it is today. And I think it boils down to greed and power.
Those are usually the bottom line. I'm sorry, Helena, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask you a question, Rob, but I just want your personal opinion on this. I'm not, as a psychic, I'm not getting any particular information about any full disclosure coming anytime soon. But there's been a lot of chatter on the Internet from psychics who are saying that full disclosure from the governments of the world is coming soon about aliens and UFOs. What is your opinion of that? Well,
all I can say is you've probably heard of the citizens' hearing on disclosure, which we held in April, Washington, D.C., where Stephen Bassett organized this conference. He brought in a lot of us witnesses there, and he had set up a panel of ex-congressmen and women. I felt after that, the Congress people were skeptical at first, but at the end of the sessions, they were more than eager to agree with us. And I felt after that somehow things had changed. That there more and more people are believing what we're saying, and so I'm hopeful that there is a change going on. Now, will it happen? I think disclosure will eventually happen. Now, when, I couldn't say, but like I said, I think there is some change going on. that's about the best I can do.
Interesting.
Yeah, I've got a couple questions out of the chat room again. Someone is asking if you are aware of the research being conducted at Dugway Proving Grounds in Utah.
No, I'm not aware. I don't have any insider information.
And one other question, he wants to know if you know Boyd Bushman and if this person is credible.
I've heard the name, Boyd Bushman, but I can't recall in what context. I don't know if he could elucidate a little bit more about who he is. And,
I'll ask him.
I think I've heard the name, but I don't know anymore on that.
Okay. Those are the questions from the chat room, and I'm just asking this person again, who is Boyd Bushman. Maybe he can clue us in. Okay, see what he's typing now, so he's anxious to have a conversation with you about that. But this whole topic, again, and we've said this before, Helene and I both, that it's a shame that we don't have the real information and we're left to kind of guess at what's going on and try to sort through the disinformation versus the real information, and it makes for a big job rather than just being told, hey, this is our aircraft, and that we don't know what it is. So,
yeah, I would encourage your listeners, if they are interested in this subject, to do some research on their own. There's a lot on the internet. Of course, there's a lot of books that have been written, but I think they should educate themselves. I think the more they do, they'll realize that this is real. It's a real phenomenon going on. There is a tremendous amount of information out there from a lot of credible witnesses, as you well know. We've had even presidents that have seen these objects.
And astronauts also.
Governors, astronauts,
that.
you bet. There's just so much out there that lends to the credibility of this. And it's a shame we don't have a functional government that we can ask about this.
Amen. It's true. We have to wonder, are they for us or against us? I mean,
they can barely find their way to their offices, right?
I have to agree with you. It's a real crying shame here. As people say, all that's left is the crying. I think we're at that place. So anyways, here is the answer from the person who asked about Boyd Bushman. He said Boyd works for Skunk Works. So I don't know if that rings a bell.
Okay, yeah. Skunk Works was a Lockheed facility that worked on experimental aircraft, black projects for the Air Force. They developed the SR-71 or 81, I forget one of those. But Bushman, if I'm not mistaken, maybe I'm wrong about this, but I think he worked with the head of the Skunk Works, whose name fails me now. But the head of the Skunk Works is now deceased. But he had seen a UFO distinctly. He and maybe Bushman was along with him. I don't know. When they saw this object, but this is another story out there. That's about all I recall of that. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us on this Saturday evening, and your documentation, your wonderful books, Faded Giant and Unidentified, which are both available on Amazon.com. People can pick them up there and read them. They're excellent. I read them myself. I highly recommend them. And
thank you.
Again, they're so well done. I mean, very well done. And you present it very matter-of-factly. This is what happened. Here are the documents, and that's it. So there shouldn't be any questions left after you finish reading these books.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you, Robert.
Yeah, our pleasure. And we're anxious to hear the rest of your abduction story. So as you delve more into it, please do keep us posted if you get any more details. And fill in the blanks. We'd love to hear.
Okay, I will do that. Thank you, Patricia.
Oh, you are welcome, Robert. Thank you.
Thank you, and good night, Robert. Yep.
Good night.
Good night. Wow, that was some story, huh?
Oh my goodness, and this is really great.
And you're right, it's not a story. You're right, it's not a story. I'll correct myself. It's an experience that he has documented, dotted all the I's, crossed all the T's, and there's no disputing it.
There is no disputing it. Here it is. So it's and he's also he's got a great mission here, which is to dismantle these weapons of mass destruction, and again that's very noble. We need more of that.
Make the world a better place.
Yeah, more of that mentality. So
you know how I am about alien stories, Patricia.
I know. Poor Helene. Our audience needs to know. Helene does not like the subject.
Well, it's not that. It's just that some of it I do see as fear-mongering and disinformation. I did not see that with Robert Salas at all.
Not at all.
He simply lived an experience that is incredibly well documented through many sources and many people. And I do believe that UFOs exist either energetically or also physically. But I also think there's a lot of nonsense out there, Patricia.
Well,
and
that's the problem.
I love to hear Robert's experience because it was so real.
It's great because it's very straightforward, and there are other books that have been written by excellent writers who have documented the disinformation. One of them is Out There, is the name of it, by Howard Bloom, who we should probably have on the show sometime. And again, he documented all the disinformation that came right out of the government to, again, confuse us and give us something to hang our hats on that turned out to be nothing at all that was valid. So, this is why I'm saying it turns the whole subject into a maelstrom, and which it shouldn't be. These things should be straightforward. So it's something we're going to keep talking about, huh?
Yeah, it is. And I'd like to thank the audience for staying tuned tonight for Robert Salas's incredible story, and we'll be back next week.
Yeah, we have lots of things coming up in spooky October. We've got
spooky
witchcraft,
October,
and we've got hauntings, and we've got creatures. Oh, we've got some marvelous, marvelous interviews coming up with terrific authors and guests, and they'll be sharing all of their spooky stories throughout the whole month.
Well, that will be exciting and fun to look forward to next week. Please put your name on our newsletter list at supernaturalgirlswithaz.com. Good night, everyone. Good night, Patricia.
Good night. Have a beautiful tomorrow.
Thanks for listening. Tune in next week for another radio adventure with